Greetings, everybody. It's Pastor Hilary. I know that during this COVID-19 pandemic, we haven't been able to worship in our sanctuary due to the safety risks, and we're worshiping at home. And we've been doing this virtual worship thing now for several months. And I wanted to help you enhance your at-home worship by helping you create a small space, a small sacred space in your home, using just simple things you have around your house to help enhance your virtual worship experience. I know it can be strange and feel disconnected to be in your living room or your office or wherever you are when you watch the service, either on a phone or a computer or a television set, and it just doesn't feel like being in church. And I want to help us create a small sacred space in your home that can give you more of a feel of being in a sacred space, being in a church building, to just give you a little bit more of a sacred feel wherever you are. And you may think, well, I don't have a huge living space, I don't have a lot of room, I don't have that many things. It's very simple, and it's just something that you can put together to enhance your at-home worship experience. So I want to take you through and show you how I have created just a very simple visual space for my virtual worship experience that I hope you can emulate in your space using whatever things you happen to have that are special and important to you. They don't have to be fancy or expensive, and you don't have to go to a lot of work, and you don't have to have a lot of space either, but you can enhance your at-home worship experience. So I'm going to show you how I do this with just a very small 12 by 12 table and a few simple household items. So please join me. So here's how I have created my little worship space for my home worship, my virtual worship at home. I just have a small table. It's a small glass table. It's very simple. And it's not very big. It's only about 12 by 12, so you don't need a huge amount of space. And if you don't have a table, you could use an end table or a desk, or maybe a portion of a bookshelf, or even just a little space around you. It doesn't need to be big, to just have a space that gives you a sense of the sacred. And it's not that we need these things to worship. God is everywhere, and we don't need to have these things to worship, but it can just help us to focus our minds and our hearts a little better when we have some of these visuals, just to put us in the spirit of being in worship. So I'm just going to take this plain table, and then I'm just going to take a napkin. This is one that I bought a few years ago at 10,000 Villages. But again, you don't need to use anything fancy. You can use a napkin or a tablecloth that you already have, or if you have a scarf or a piece of fabric, anything like that, or something that's meaningful to you, any type of table covering, and you can use it on your table just to give it a little bit of extra visual beauty to the space you're creating. And you can even use just a plain white napkin or plain white tablecloth just to sort of set apart that space for worship. And then I like to gather a few symbols, and these can vary depending on what you have in your house. Use things that are special and meaningful to you. They do not have to be fancy or expensive or opulent or anything. They can be just very simple things that have meaning for you and can help bring you into a spirit of worship. One of the things I'm going to set out, this is a Bible. This is my father's Bible that he got at confirmation, and that's to remind me of God's Word. You can use any Bible you have, or if you don't have a bound book version of the Bible, you can always use a prayer book or another inspirational text, just something just to set apart and remind you of God's Word. And then another thing I like to have in the space is a candle. And again, you can use any candle you have. It doesn't have to be a fancy candle. It doesn't have to be scented. This is one I got at I think I got it at Marshall's several years ago. It has a little lid. It's a little jar candle, but you can use any candle. You can use a tea light or a votive, or even a battery operated candle, just to give a little light. If you're not able to actually light a candle wherever you're living, if you're living in an apartment or a condominium, you might have restrictions on that. So, maybe a battery operated candle is better for you. And of course, if you're lighting candles at home, please be careful and don't leave them unattended. And I'm just going to take a lighter and I'm going to light this candle. And candles are used in a variety of Christian traditions to remind us of God's presence, that God is with us, that Jesus is the light of the world, and Jesus is with us. So it's just a candle to remind you of Jesus' presence. And then another symbol I might use is a cross, which is a very traditional Christian symbol to remind us of Jesus' love for us and his sacrifice on the cross. This is a stained glass cross that I have that I can either hang or just lay flat. I'm going to just lay it flat here. And you can see how the glow of the candle, you can see it kind of give that pretty glow to the iridescent there. If you don't have a glass cross, you can use any type of cross that you have. You can even use a cross necklace or a piece of jewelry and lay it there. Or you can even make your own cross. You can even take just some simple sticks or wood from outside and bind them together and just make it into a very simple rustic cross, just to remind you of Jesus' sacrifice and Jesus' presence. And another thing that would be nice, that's again very simple, is to put just a simple bowl of water to remember your baptism. This is just a plain, simple white bowl that I happen to have. It's nothing fancy, but I'm just going to put it there to remind me of my baptism. And you can even kind of flick your fingers in the water and just remember your baptism and those baptismal promises, that you are sealed and marked as God's own, and also your Christian commitment that we are baptized into Christ, so we turn away from the world and turn toward following Christ. And if it's a communion Sunday and we're celebrating virtual communion, you can also have your communion elements here. So I have a little bit of grape juice just in a plain glass, and my bread that I'll be using. And again, these are just plain, simple white dishes that I have. They're nothing fancy. If you want to use something fancier, maybe you have some nice china or crystal or something you'd like to use for communion or home worship to make it a little special, please feel free to do that. Or just use something that's really simple and just has meaning for you. You can even use a coffee mug or a plastic plate. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but I like to put these things together and just kind of lay this out and have this kind of here as I'm watching worship. And then I can sit here and turn on my television and tune into the virtual worship service, and I can follow along with the bulletin. And I can also have this little space that just brings a little bit of a sense of being in church at home, because we know that it's hard when we can't be together in our sanctuary. We have a beautiful sanctuary for worship, and we're not able to be in there now due to safety concerns with COVID. So we are worshiping at home, but you can bring a little bit of that church feel wherever you are in your home, and you don't have to have a lot of things or fancy items. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It can just be a simple space. And Sunday morning, you can just take a few minutes before worship, take some deep breaths to calm your spirit and focus your mind and be aware of God's presence, and just take a few minutes to prepare your worship space so that you can have just a little more sense of being in church and having these Christian symbols here as you worship at home. So as you can see, preparing a simple space for home worship doesn't have to be elaborate or fancy. You can use just things that you have already in your home and make just a small, simple, special space for your home worship that I hope will enhance your virtual worship at home. And I know it's hard that we can't be in our beautiful sanctuary together right now because of the safety risks due to COVID. And we are worshiping at home, and that can feel weird at times tuning into a television. But I hope that this can really help you prepare just a small, simple, sacred space in your home to enhance your at-home worship experience. And I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to seeing you all at Virtual Church on Sunday. Take care. God bless.